There is one team in European football that has defied the odds this season, and that is PSG. From taking just 4 points from their first 5 games in the league phase of the Champions League, to now being one of the top 2 favourites to win the competition. But the tricky part is, that's not all. This season, PSG are on the verge of achieving something historic for French football in general, but we'll talk about that later in the video. For now, let's focus on what makes this PSG team so impressive and dissect their master plan. Okay, look, a few months ago we made a video about the new PSG team in which we talked about the end of the blink era of Nasser Al-Khelaifi. And while many of you disagreed that PSG are now much closer to winning the Champions League than they were with Messi, Neymar and Mbappe, 4 months later it looks like we were right. Luis Enrique's team is functioning brilliantly, and as we reveal in step 4, PSG are tactically better than they were under Laurent Blanc, Mauricio Pochettino or even Thomas Tuchel, with whom PSG reached the final. So, the first step for this Paris Saint-Germain team to start working as expected since the Qatar investment group took over in 2011 was to get rid of all the big egos in the squad. A dressing room with so many superstars in one place is almost impossible to control. And yeah, of course, if you're Real Madrid and you've won 15 Champions Leagues, it's easier to do so. But even Real Madrid, we can see right now in 2025 that whenever Mbappe came on and started to raise his game, Vinicius got lost and the Brazilian is nowhere near his level of last year. So, in the beginning, the blink, as Al-Khelaifi liked to call it, was the one and only chance for this PSG team that had won more or less nothing before the arrival of the Qatari investor. I mean, the only prestigious trophies they had won in their history were 3 in total: the Ligue 1 titles in 1994 and 1986, and the Cup Winners' Cup in 1996. That's all. So, Nasser Al-Khelaifi's plan was to build a super team made up of the best footballers in the world. And while this approach worked on the domestic stage, Al-Khelaifi's hunger kept growing and growing exponentially. He, along with the rest of the footballing world, saw the domestic trophies as a simple task for PSG. From that moment on, after a series of failures in the Champions League, Nasser took matters into his own hands. In his first 5 years in charge, PSG never managed to reach the semi-finals of the Champions League. 4 consecutive quarter-final exits between 2013 and 2016, and a round of 16 exit in 2016-17 were the final straw for the Qatari. So, Al-Khelaifi took a different approach, one that proved even more disastrous for PSG. He thought, what cannot be achieved with money can be achieved with a lot of money. He spent 400 million on Neymar and Mbappe in a matter of months, but the result was still the same, if not worse. Over the next 2 years, PSG were knocked out in the round of 16 in consecutive seasons. Yep, they eventually reached the final in 2020, but they were nowhere near the level of Hansi Flick's Bayern Munich. Then, after 2 more miserable seasons in 2022 and 2023, when PSG were again easily dispatched in the round of 16, Nasser Al-Khelaifi said that PSG would no longer be the flashy team with the best players, and that they must become humble again. And, well, many fans doubted his transparency back then, but he actually kept his word. Now, in mid-April, and a day before PSG's first quarter-final against Aston Villa at the time of writing, I can assure you that if PSG win the Champions League this season, there is one man in their management who will get most of the credit, and that is sporting director Luis Campos. Yes, you probably haven't heard of him unless you're a PSG fan, but to describe Campos in the simplest terms, he's widely regarded as the best negotiator in world football at the moment, and the evidence is out of this world. Firstly, after taking the first big job of his career, as sporting director of AS Monaco in 2013, he was the main reason why they won the Ligue 1 title, and then enjoyed one of the most memorable Champions League runs in recent history, in 2017 when Monaco reached the semi-finals. But to do that, Monaco needed quality, and luckily for them, they had Campos to provide it. Just listen to these names: Radamel Falcao, Joao Martinho, James Rodriguez, Dimitar Berbatov, Fabinho, Bernardo Silva and Anthony Martial, all of whom played a huge part in their success in the mid-2010s. But that's not all. In 2017, Campos moved to Lille, and it was there that he ended PSG's dominance again by winning the title in 2021. Yes, he was technically out of the team due to a change of ownership, but Campos' impact was undeniable. He brought in top talent including Victor Osimhen, Rafael Leao and Gabriel Magalhaes, and was also the architect behind the 2020-21 title-winning squad with the likes of Sven Botman, Mike Maignan and Renato Sanchez, who are now playing for some of the best teams in Europe. So yes, Campos is exceptional in his negotiation and managing skills, and it was clear that everyone had a great deal of respect for him. There was also an interesting video on social media of Luis Enrique and Luis Campos sharing a moment after PSG secured their 4th consecutive League One title and 10th in the last 12 years a couple of days ago. So in all that time since Al Khelaïfi took over, there have been only 2 seasons where the Parisians didn't win the title, and in both of those seasons, it was Luis Campos who played a leading role in the acquisition of both domestic and foreign talent in both Monaco and Lille. That's why Nasser decided to hire him in 2022, and he shows no signs of leaving anytime soon. Campos' first big signing was the €40 million deal for Vitinha from Porto. His exceptional vision and passing accuracy have been crucial since the club's previous midfielder, Marco Verratti, left in 2023. Comparisons have been drawn between the two, and it makes sense. Vitinha has been one of the best holding midfielders this season, with a remarkable 94.1% pass completion rate in the Champions League since the start of the 2024-25 season. He literally ruled the midfield against Liverpool, but none of that would have been possible without his partner in the middle, Joao Neves. Yes, from Campos' first PSG signing to one of the most recent, Portuguese magician Neves. He arrived from Benfica last summer for €70 million, and although it sounded a little over the top, I don't think you'll find a PSG fan complaining about the investment. Neves has slotted seamlessly into PSG's midfield alongside Vitinha, and at just 20 years of age, his pace and work rate have been exemplary, and he's among the top 5 in terms of distances covered in the Champions League. His partnership with Vitinha has strengthened PSG's midfield, making it arguably the most mobile and dynamic in Europe this season. And before we go any further, let's move on to the desired and gifted Desire Doue. Yes, you've probably heard this before, but this really is one of the coldest names out there, and his name really fits the talent that this boy possesses. Another man who arrived last summer from Rennes for 50 million, Doue has quickly made a name for himself. His versatility allows him to excel as both a winger and an attacking midfielder. Notably, he scored the winning penalty against Liverpool, demonstrating his strong mentality, and has also contributed 18 goals only since the start of 2025. And of course, we can't forget the attacking trio of Dembele, Barcola and Kvaratskhelia, all of whom have arrived in the last 2 summers. To unveil the biggest secret about them and the tactical setup of this entire PSG team, let's take a look. See, with the evolution of the game in the last 2 decades, or even more, we've seen a very sharp transition from teams relying very much on heavy type of strikers, most often shaped in a 4-4-2 formation. Some historical examples of this could be Marco van Basten and Ruud Gullit, who won 3 Champions Leagues together, playing in such a formation. Or why not Thierry Henry and Dennis Bergkamp during Arsenal's invincible season, who also played in a 4-4-2. Of course, Henry was much more mobile than the other 3, but you get the point. This was something that was very common in the past. As the game has evolved, however, the 4-4-2 has been used less and less, with the 4-3-3 and the 4-2-3-1 taking over, with sharp and quick wingers out wide, but strong physical players providing stability in midfield and defence. And, well, here comes Luis Enrique and his understanding of the game. You see, the Spaniard has made a name for himself over the years as a manager who does not play by the rules. He sees the game in a completely different way. So what we're seeing now with this PSG team is that, after all the work done by Nasser Al Khelaïfi to invest in young talents, and by Luis Campos to actually bring them to Paris, Luis Enrique has created a team of mobile and dynamic players all over the pitch. And when we say everywhere, we really mean it. Just look at the team. Starting with the fullbacks, you have Hakimi and Nuno Mendes, 2 extremely mobile players, arguably the fastest pair of fullbacks in the world at the moment. Then you have the 3 in the middle, Neves, Vitinha and Fabian Ruiz, absolutely the same. We talked about the first 2, but Fabian also falls into the category. Despite being one of the tallest players in the team, 189 centimeters, Fabian Ruiz is extremely agile for a man of his stature. We all remember how he fooled the entire Croatian defence at the Euros with his quick thinking and his footwork. And up front, the attacking trio of Dembele, Barcola and Kvaratskhelia, and of course Doue, who comes on in the second half of most games. The most impressive thing about them And something we'll see in their biggest games until the end of the season is that the four are interchangeable. All of them can play in any of the three attacking positions. This creates chaos in the opposition half and is very difficult to defend against. And while Liverpool realistically only conceded 1 goal against them, the Merseyside are probably the best example of a team that has suffered from Luis Enrique's brand of football. So what's the ceiling for this team? Are PSG really capable of achieving something historic, like winning the treble? Let me give you a little hint. A French club has never won the treble in history. So could 2024-25 finally be the end of that trend? Let me know in the comments section down below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're new to the channel, or just go and check some of our latest analysis. So, for now guys, catch you in the next one. Take care.